Hello, I am Emma Davis. Welcome to Prime Business. The Ghana Statistical Service has revealed in its latest 2024 quarterly report that Ghana experienced a trade surplus of 11.5% in Q1 of 2024. According to the government statistician, Professor Samuel Kobina-Enim, this is more than twice the average of the year 2023. Here's more.
For the first time, the Ghana Statistical Service has released the export and import price indices, also known as the unit value indices. These indices measure changes over time in the relative prices of exported and imported products compared to the quantities of these commodities. Chief Government Statistician Professor Kobina-Enim highlighted that a trade surplus was recorded in the first quarter of 2024.
Our nominal trade deficit in 2022, which was mainly driven by high commodity prices for mineral fuels and oils, have been reversed in 2023. This is based on the fact that we recorded a trade deficit of 4.8 billion Ghana cedis in 2022 and 5.3 billion Ghana cedis trade surplus in 2023. And this is as a result of the commodity price increases for mineral fuels and oils that we had in 2022, leading to the trade deficit. First quarter of 2024, we have recorded a trade surplus of 11.5%. This trade surplus of 11.5% is more than twice the average for the whole year 2023 and also the same time period in 2023.
The export value of cocoa products in Q1 2024 decreased to $592.2 million compared to an average of $825.8 million for the first quarters of 2021, 2022, and 2023.
Cocoa performed not as expected in the first quarter of 2024, having a slowdown in its total export value and recording the lowest since 2021, despite the fact that the first quarters of each year has seen the highest trade value for our cocoa exports. This report has put to light the fact that gold has consolidated its position between 2022 and 2023 with a share of 45.2%, and mineral fuels and oils has seen a lower share over the same time period. Increases have been mainly driven by upward changes in prices rather than increases in outputs.
Gold export became more significant in 2023, rising from 54.1 billion Ghana cedis in 2022 to 84.4 billion Ghana cedis.
The World Bank has revealed that it is expecting its recent disbursements to trigger fresh donor funding and private capital investment to Ghana. The bank since January has advanced more than $300 million and with some $500 million expected before the end of the year. Senior economist at the World Bank Group, David Elmaleh, says all the actions should encourage other partners to come on board and support Ghana's economic recovery.
I cannot speak for other donors, but what I can say is that the fact that the World Bank approved this operation yesterday, that the World Bank board approved this operation yesterday, is in fact a recognition of the reform program that has been enacted by the government, and the fact that it's starting to bear fruits. In addition, that financing and the reforms that we've supported will help further advance those reforms and stabilize Ghana. So we do hope that it's going to create confidence in the country, and that could attract the support of other partners.
Your statement talked about also unlocking private sector investment. What did you mean by this and curbing inflation? Because is it the de-risking bit as well? Again, what did you mean by unlocking and bringing in terms of foreign direct investment and curbing inflation? I wanted some clarity on that one.
Yes. So, first, stabilizing the macroeconomy is a key step to attract the private sector and foreign investment. Because when you have high inflation, when the exchange rate is highly variable and depreciating, that does not breed confidence and attract and attract investment. So that's the first step. The second step, we have specific reforms, in this series that should help to attract investment. One that we supported was, for instance, the lowering of the capital requirement for foreign direct investment. Before companies to invest in all sorts of sectors were required to invest a minimum amount of capital to be able to invest in Ghana. So some of those requirements have been relaxed, which should result in increased investment.
The Ghana Employers Association is backing the Social Security and National Trust, SSNIT, on its decision to offset its stakes in 6 Ghanaian hotels. According to the association's president, Dr. Emmanuel Edu-Sarkodie, the action protects the interests of contributors since the continuous running of the hotels by SSNIT will impose a heavy cost burden on SSNIT. He spoke at the 3rd Annual Leadership Conference of the Ghana Employers Association.
The Ghana Employers Association instituted the annual leadership conference in 2022 to bring leaders together from various institutions and at different levels to deliberate on policies that support the elevation of women to higher leadership levels. The conference also serves as a graduation ceremony for women who completed their training in the flagship Female Future program. This year, 65 participants graduated from cohorts 5 and 6 of the program. President of the Ghana Employers Association, Dr. Emmanuel Edu-Sarkodie, explains why the association's mandate is to ensure gender equity.
Ghana Employers Association is committed to the development of human capital, and this particular program is geared towards the development of female human capital to make its contribution towards corporate and society as a whole. And this is the 3rd one, and it's been, I would say it's been impactful, very, very impactful. You heard from yourself, 275 grad ones so far, and improving and making an impact both in the corporate as well as in social life.
Deputy Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Dinah Asunabadapa, noted that she is confident the 8th Parliament of the 4th Republic will pass the Affirmative Action Bill to champion gender equity.
There's been a number of agenda as far back as the 90s, where we used to joke about Beijing Conference, etc. There's been, if you look at where I'm coming from, the legal profession, we see that replicated even within the legal profession. If you go to the law faculties, if you go to the bench now, lawyers, more women are coming out. And so policy-wise, I think there's that understanding. But of course, I agree with you that the Affirmative Action Bill will be the icing on the cake. I am confident that we're going to get it past this Parliament because all the stages that it has to go through. The last time I checked before Parliament went on recess was for the committee to make some amendments, which would then come back to Parliament. And then once those amendments have been made, the Honourable House will proceed to pass it.
In response to the intended sale of the Social Security and National Trust stakes to Rock City, Dr. Edu-Sarkodie stated that the actions of SSNIT is in the best interest of contributors.
All the hotels, with the exception of where we are all loss-making. Never paid dividend to the company, to SSNIT before. And remember, hotels, after every 5 to 8 years, you have to retool them. Should we still take workers' funds to throw it back into a hotel that has not paid dividend over the last 5 to 8 years, or should invite the private sector to come in? So I think there's no question about the principle. Principle is right, process is right. We can discuss the politics, the optics of who has won. If you ask me, I absolutely stand by it that these hotels are loss-making. They will need to be retooled. SSNIT, in the light of debt exchange and all that, should not put cash behind these hotels, but rather call private sector to put in money.
This year's leadership conference, which was held on the theme Breaking Barriers, Women Leading the Charge in New Frontiers, also coincided with the 5th anniversary of the flagship Female Future program.
Moving on, workers of the produce buying company of Cocoa Board have mounted pressure on the government to pay them their 10 months unpaid salaries, else they will embark on a sit-down strike. The aggrieved workers gathered at the Cocoa Board head office in the Ashanti region, clad in red, to drum home their demand after several engagements. They want management to immediately make payments to avert an industrial action. Seth Edusei is vice chairman of the Workers' Union.
So, asking the government to come into our aid for a period of 10 months now, we haven't yet been given a salary. Management always go to office and work. Some of them have taken months, whilst we are suffering for this 10 solid months. Some of them are taking salaries. So we want government to intervene as soon as possible. If the company happens to have a particular problem, it is two things. He either writes to us and tell us that I brought you these people to work with, but I've come to realize I cannot continue with them any longer. Therefore, I want to close down the company. So whatsoever we are entitled to, then they come on board and pay to us. But for us to be left there, we're not receiving salary, but management is receiving salary. Yes. This is cheating. Who can you do this to? This is disheartening. It doesn't have to happen under President Kufuor, whom we know is a very strong legal person. This thing, when it is brought to his chamber to go and deal with, how will he take care of some of these issues? Staff that has family. We feed our children. Yes. We feed our wives. Yes. We do other things apart from our family. So all these things are on board. Nobody is helping us with this. We have sounded a lot of information to this country, both opposition and then ruling government. Nobody is listening to us. Yes. We have been left to our own fate. And how can you live in this hot economy in Ghana without not receiving salary?
Are also calling on YOCO to launch investigations into the management of their sample residue fund. According to the Workers' Union, millions of cedis worth of sample residue funds intended for their welfare have gone missing.
Have worked and also organized some sort of cocoa. As a company, we always work and then put certain cocoa down. In case of any emergency, we use some of this money to defray it. Over a period of time, we have tagged or named this particular thing as a sample residue. This sample residue, when you combine it from the period of 2016-2017 or 2017-2028, this money could have also have used to clear some of this stock of 5,471 stock. It is a figure that we want management to also come and account for. In our financial statement, we have not seen any provision made for the sample residue. Who is holding the sample residue? Which account does the sample residue fall into? We are again asking YOCO to come and investigate the sample residue quantum of the money that management is still holding. Recently, we oversaw that management has started auctioning some of our properties. Yes. When we call them to order and ask them, why are they doing this? What are they using this money for? They told us that they are using the money to settle electricity bills.
Moving on, Managing Director of Ghana Water Limited, Engineer Dr. Clifford Brymer, is urging the town and fiscal planning institutions to collaborate and work with each other in order to provide the needed infrastructures for water supplies in new and developing communities across the country. He was speaking at the 3rd PURC regulatory conversation in Accra. Here's more.
The 3rd PURC regulatory conversation is part of the Commission's ongoing effort to enhance transparency, engage public interest, and serve as an educational tool. Executive Secretary of the PURC, Dr. Ishmael Aka, emphasized the importance of water in the domestic economy.
Water has a cultural attribute. So when you go to the Ashanti region, you can hear a town called Asoyebua. You never find Kanya Yebua in anywhere in Ghana. Now, what it means is that there's a cultural, social perspective when it comes to ownership, when it comes to protection, when it comes to the use of water. So if today we don't have electricity, so far as there are transmission lines, we can import electricity from Togo or somewhere, Côte d'Ivoire. If you don't have water, it will be very difficult to import water.
Ebokwe Green is the board chairman of the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission.
Even though PRCs water mandate is limited to urban areas, the Commission, from its vantage position as the sole regulator of energy and water utility services, has acquired deep insights into cross-cutting structural and operational bottlenecks that exist between the urban and rural structures. It is worth noting that despite significant progress in the water sector in Ghana, obstacles persist that impede universal access to safe drinking water. These circumstances have prompted us to question whether, after several years of implementing the aforementioned reforms, it is not time to reassess the situation.
Managing Director of Ghana Water Limited, Engineer Dr. Clifford Brimer, called for proper town planning.
Somebody goes to build because the place he is a plot, probably far away from city center. When he gets there, he now wants you to extend water to the person. And so for me, to lay a 4-inch pipe to a community, I am looking at how many people I'm going to serve and how many days, how many months will it take for us, for people to pay through the tariff for us to recoup it. If that cannot be done, you send the water there, it seems that from day one, you are in a loss and you are supposed to be in business. And so some of these things come, and that's why we think that the fiscal planning people should take it up and let us work together.
The third PURC regulatory conversation focused on the theme confronting the status quo of Ghana's drinking water supply, best practices in resilience, sustainability and investment.
German Development Bank, operating in Ghana through KfW, is calling for a close collaboration between Ghana and other African economies to leverage artificial intelligence to drive the economic growth of the continent. Speaking to Joy Business, KfW Country Director Adnet Wilhelm said the recent held 3i Africa Summit is a testament of the enormous opportunities digitalization brings in transforming the economy.
I hope that the collaborations among African countries and with the rest of the world will increase. This was a recurring theme throughout formal and informal discussions. This collaboration includes access to technology, invention of homegrown technology, increased interoperability of different payment and banking systems, proper policy coordination for regulation to enable conducive framework conditions, not increasing red tape. All in all, more efficient operation of businesses and reduced transaction costs will lead to higher competitiveness of local businesses, a basis for higher growth and more decent jobs for Africa's young population. I think that's what unleashing Africa's fintech and digital economy potential means.
Resident representative of ECOWAS in Ghana has called for support for children with special needs to help them achieve their full potential in life. Speaking at an event to climax the 49th celebration of the Economic Community of West African States at the Jolu Special School, Baba Ghana Wakil said this support will go a long way to help them become useful citizens in the sub-region.
Today is my first visit here, and I hope that we will sustain the relationship, the connection that I established. Whether I am here or not, somebody else will take over my duty, and you will see what I have done today. And in another ECOWAS Day celebration, and when you need his help or his assistance, you can reach out to the office of the ECOWAS ambassador here in Ghana in the Slip in the airport city. And the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is our active partner. An ECOWAS office in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, whom we work together to see that we extend the necessary support to special places such as this. So these young people are also ECOWAS citizens. They are ECOWAS citizens living in Ghana. And it is our duty to support them and encourage them to explore their full potential.
Meanwhile, headmaster of the school, Frederick Tete, thanked the commission for the gesture and expressed his desire to see the commission support them in their skills acquisition agenda of the facility.
And the relationship that we are starting to do today, I want to assure you, I don't want to end here today. And I will personally take your contact, and I will promise that anytime I need something, I'll follow you. I want to assure you, I'll be knocking at your door 24/7. And this school will be a lot. And like I said, travel the road can do. And once ECOWAS states they are going to contribute their resources to support the needy in the society, I will be there every day to discuss with you how best we can develop these kids so that when they graduate from this institution, they can also do something meaningful to help their communities and to help the development of ECOWAS. On behalf of this lovely thing, sir, and your entourage, I want to assure you I'm most grateful to you. And our prayer is that God will strengthen you as a leader. God will grant you enough of wisdom and knowledge to lead this community, ECOWAS group.
Time for the Entrepreneur in You series, as Dr. Ampon shares how, tells the difference between your profits, your margin, your profit, and your net margin.
So we tend to not realize that profit is different from margin, and they have different functions within your business. Hello. Hello, have you asked yourself the difference between profits and margin? It's because these are terms that we use interchangeably every day. So we tend to not realize that profit is different from margin, and they have different functions within your business. Your profit is the amount of money you make after you subtract your cost of goods. So say I were to sell clothing, I would go to the wholesaler, buy them in certain quantities, bring them to your shop, and then sell them at a higher price than I bought it. If you bought your clothes at 600 cedis, and after selling all these clothes, you got 1,000 cedis, that means you made a profit of 1,000 minus 600. So you made 400 cedis. The difference between profit and margin is that margin is a function, it's a percentage, it's not an actual amount. It means you made 400 cedis divided by 1,000 cedis, which is 40%. So margin is basically the profit divided by your sales price expressed as a percentage. That makes margin a very important ratio to have as a business person. And margin is the same as profit margin. The term is used interchangeably most of the time, but your profit is an actual figure, margin is a ratio, it's a percentage, and your profit margin is the same as your margin. But what if on the way I decided to buy an iPhone or a new shoe or a new watch and made it a business expense? That is why your net profit shows the actual profitability of your business, including all expenses. It includes the clothes you bought at 600, your electricity, it includes your taxes, your permits, your transportation, salaries, everything. If at the end of everything, subtracting all of these expenses, you made 200 cedis, and still sold at 1,000 cedis, it means that you made a profit of 400 cedis, but a net profit of 200 cedis. So your margin might be 40%, but your net margin in this case is 20%. So as an entrepreneur, as we fundraise, investors and your friends and family that wants to chip in will need to be shown these ratios to prove that, yes, you, number one, understand how the business atmosphere is, but also to understand why the ratio of your margin and your net margin shows how efficient you use your money, and also shows how efficient your sales process is. So it means that for every CD that comes in, 40% is profit, 20% is pure profit. I'm sure you're thinking what I'm thinking. There might be some inefficiencies in the extra 20% that you might be able to carve out to make more money than you would normally make. So if someone says I made a margin of 200 CDs, you have to ask the person, maybe that's your profit. What's your actual margin? Because margin is a percentage and profit is the actual figure. And margins show how efficient your sales process is, whilst profit does exactly what the word says, how profitable or the potential profitability of the business. That's it for today. Keep well.
Brought to you by Africa School of Entrepreneurship.
Follow Dr. Maxwell Ampon and the Entrepreneur in You series right here on Mondays and Thursdays, and also on radio and all our social media platforms. That's it for tonight. I am Emma Davis. For more business news, do log on to myjoyonline.com. I leave you with international business. Have a good evening.